Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am quite excited for today's video because I'm playing with some old goodies. Today we're going to be doing a full shop my stash, going through some of my forgotten favorites and products I just don't remember why I stopped using. So if that's something you're into, make sure to keep on watching and please don't forget to subscribe. I do upload 3 times a week and that is the best way to stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting. Also make sure to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of the uploads I do post, which once again, 3 times a week. Anyway, I'm not going to keep you guys any longer. Let's jump right into the video. So for primer, this is going to be the J1 Jelly Pack. This is, I believe, I tried to do my research. I believe all of these items are still available. If I missed something that isn't, I'm the worst and I'm sorry and let me know that I missed that. But that's why in my last video, which I'll link up here, which was my discontinued favorites, the blush I was going to use today, which was the Pearlescent Pink Color Icon Blush from Wet n Wild, is no longer available. So I was not able to use it in this video. Anyway, this primer, I used to love it. It is a very sticky base. It almost reminds me of the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip Primer. Very tacky and sticky. It's almost like a 3-in-1. It's going to blur. It's going to get tacky, so it's going to like cause your makeup to last really long on the skin. And it's also going to like hydrate and plump. So you kind of get the best of everything, but you see how like sticky that is? The one downside, but you do get used to it. For foundation, I actually feel like I did dedicated videos to a lot of these things. But for foundation, this is the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define Full Coverage Foundation in the shade F7. There was a decent amount of time where this was my everyday foundation. I was wearing it all the time. This is actually the reason I wanted to film this video, because I was looking at the new Pure foundation, the one that has a pump and a doe foot, and I thought that that was really cool, and I was looking at the doe foot, and I was like, I love foundations that you apply with a doe foot applicator. And then I realized that I have one sitting in my collection that I don't ever really touch anymore. Hence, me wanting to break it out again. And I figured, while I'm doing that with one product, why not just make that the theme for the video and do it for everything? And lately, the past few foundations I've been reviewing, the shades have been way too light for me. So to have a foundation that actually, without finessing it, without using powders, already looks like my shade, definitely a good sign. Jackie Aina just did a video using the Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer, and I haven't used mine in so long. I used the shade Porcelain. They did come out with new shades, however, none of the new shades work better for me than this one does. I did stop using it because it is a little more yellow than I like my concealers to be, but I do remember loving the coverage. And that's the whole purpose of a video like this, is I remember in some cases why I stopped using a product or why I loved a product, but not both. So with this one, I remember I stopped using it because it was yellow, but for a while I loved it before that happened. So let's see how it works. And just right off the bat on the forehead, that is blending out really nicely and not leaving a whole yellow cast. So I might have stopped using this for absolutely no reason. And that doesn't look bad at all. I do remember, though, this concealer does need to set down pretty quickly, or you can experience some creasing. So grabbing the Longtime No Shine Translucent Powder from Lancome. Another powder. I haven't used this powder in so long, and 100% honesty, the reason I am grabbing this powder is I saw Thomas Halpert do a video where he was talking about his favorite products, because he said on his channel he tends to be very negative and he tends to really focus on things that don't work. So to combat that, and I think that's awesome to kind of notice a trend, and if you don't like it, change it, he decided to, instead of talking about products that suck, to talk about the ones he really likes, and this was the powder he's recommended. And if he, who uses so many different powders, will recommend this over a lot of the other ones, I have to give it a second chance and really see why. because I have used this in the past, and I don't remember why I didn't use it again or why I stopped using it. Oh, I remember why, I think. I got it at the same time as I got the setting powder, the setting spray, the Lancome Fix It Forget It setting spray, which you guys know I am in love with. And I feel like I tried them together and it was a beautiful combination. And then I wanted to test the setting spray on its own to see which one of the two was amazing. And I ended up loving the setting spray, and I guess I just forgot that I was testing them separately, and I never went back to this one, and I really just focused on the spray. So, amateur rookie mistake. I am going to quickly, now that my face is powdered, throw on my brows and my eyeshadow primer. My MAC paint pot has been my favorite for literally like ever, so I don't have like a forgotten favorite Shop My Stash eye primer that I like more than this. And I'm going to stick to like my typical brow routine because I don't really have a lot. If I don't like a brow, I get rid of it. So I don't really have anything that I don't know how it works. And I'll be right back with brows and eyes done. All right, so we are back. Eyes are primed and brows are done. I'm going to jump into brightening and contour. So I'm going to be going into my BH Cosmetics Studio Contour Palette. I'm going to start by taking down here this ashy, cool-toned contour shade, and I'm going to buff that into the contours of the face. Now, I know the reason that I stopped using this was I got this for a dupe video when I was looking for something to do instead of my Kat Von D powders, and I definitely still preferred the Kat Von D powders. However, I never really gave these a shot, and then I noticed that I just started going heavier with bronzer, and I stopped basically contouring altogether. But I remember these powders. This is a very long time ago, mind you. I did a full face under $100. Like, if you have a really tight budget, $100 to do your entire face, contour, bronzer, blush, highlight, lashes, lash glue, tools, the works. And this was the palette that I got, and I used it for all eyeshadows and all complexion. So, great if you are on a budget and you don't have like 19 products at your disposal and you really want something that you can use to contour and brighten and bronze all in one. Because like this warm tone up here is an amazing bronzer shade. I'm not using it for bronzer today because I will be using something a little bit different, and you'll see why in a second. But I am going to also take that same shade and use that to contour down the sides of the nose. Then I'm going to take this peachy shade right here, and I'm going to use that to brighten the under eye. That's another step I kind of stopped doing, was taking a shade like this and gently patting it into the under eye. I just kind of started, whatever my translucent powder was, that was my brightening shade, and I was kind of leaving it at that. But I used to have designated powders that I would use to brighten after I set everything down. And on that same brush, taking a tiny bit of the lightest color, I'm just going to take that to add a matte highlight to the brow bone and a tiny bit just to spotlight the innermost portion of the under eye. Taking my powder brush with no additional product, I'm just going to kind of blend that under eye powder over the contour just to make sure everything looks kind of seamless before I go in with bronzer. For bronzer, I'm dipping back into Tantric, the Omega bronzer from Marc Jacobs. You guys know that this was super loved on my channel. I used to use this for literally everything. Then I got the white one, which is Tantastic, and I just liked the shade a little bit more. But we're jumping back into this one today because now that I'm less afraid of bronzer, the other one is a little bit softer, a little bit more sheer, and a little bit like more cool toned. But I'm less afraid of bronzer. So who knows what we're gonna like today. So I'm thinking I might have to rotate my other Omega bronzer out and turn this into my summer bronzer and pull that one out for winter, which is kind of funny because the white one is part of the summer collection And for me, that's my winter shade. But this is looking really nice. And I'm kind of upset that I went this far into the summer. It's already the second week of July, and I haven't used this bronzer yet. I think the best part is that I'm already up to blush, and I have not run into a problem that I have to fix. Normally at this point, when I'm doing any sort of video like this, I've already hit at least one problem that I have to kind of try and correct. But not today. Today I'm actually really happy with how everything looks so far. For blush, we're going way throwback for me. This is the Milani Baked Blush in Luminoso, and I'm going to take that. It is like the most beautiful pink with gold sheen that it just gives you the most beautiful summery glow. I remember before I got NARS Orgasm, everyone said this one was a dupe, so I got this instead. And I actually prefer this. NARS Orgasm's a little more shiny. It's got more of a sheen to it, and it's a little more golden, whereas this is a little more peachy, and I just like it so much more. I also don't think I've ever worn this much of it. I used to use this back when I was afraid of blush, and I barely wore any at the time. Taking whatever's left on my brush, I'm just going to hit up the bridge of the nose. This is going too well that something's going to have to mess it up. I don't think I have used this in such a long time. This is the Smashbox Centering Citrus Primer Water. I'm going to use this. This isn't going to be my setting spray, but I am going to use it just to take down the powderiness on the face before I highlight. While the skin is still a little tacky, I'm going to go into, this is the Filter Highlighting Powder from COLLAB Beauty in Uncensored. I did a full face of first impressions on this entire collection when it first launched a very long time ago, and I remember this being so beautiful, and I cannot tell you why I stopped using it. Oh, that's really pretty. I can tell you why I stopped using it now. So when I was using this product, this was back in the day when I was using 3 to 4 highlighters every single day, whereas like I still like to glow a lot, but I will typically try to only use one and just use a lot of it. Occasionally I'll go into 2, but for the most part, I was using, back then I would layer on 4, 5, 6 highlighters on a regular basis. This is really pretty. It is nice and glowy, but I definitely, especially back then, I liked to be so blinding that even if I turned my lights off, you would see shiny. And I'm not going to say I'm less glowy now, but I definitely like to be a little bit more natural, more wearable, and less high shine on the face. But that does look really pretty. Luckily, the eyeshadow palette I'm using today has one of my favorite highlighters in it, so that I do remember. For eyeshadow today, I'm going back into the Alamar Cosmetics Reina del Caribe Volume 1 palette. This came in BoxyCharm June of last year, so I've had this for over a year, and I've used it quite a few times, but not nearly as many as this palette deserves based on how beautiful it is. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take La Costa up here, and I'm going to layer that over my highlight, because I remember wearing this shade, oh yeah, as a beautiful cheek topper just on the very low point of the cheekbone to give it the most beautiful blinding glow ever. So for today's look, I'm going to grab, this is a Makeup Shack T50, and I'm going to dip into a little bit of Cocoa Taxi down here. And that's going to serve as our transition shade today. You know what? I'm going to zoom you in because I have not brought you guys in for a real eye look in a while, so I'm going to do that. All right, now that we're up close and personal, I'm going to take that Cocoa Taxi shade and just build that into the transition area. And I am actually going to, I'm focusing it in the socket and then blending it up because we are going to want this to be noticeable today. Then on that same brush, taking a tiny amount of Cafecito down here, I'm going to kind of gently buff that into the outer portion of the eye. I have no idea how smoky I want this to go today, but knowing me, we're going to decide we want it to be light and natural and end up being super dark and grungy. Or we're going to commit to dark and grungy and it's just going to turn into a black smoky eye. So those are our options. Then taking a flat brush, this is the Sigma E35. I'm going to take a touch more of that Cocoa Taxi and I'm going to just buff out that crease one more time. And you see how from this eye to this eye, taking that extra brush and really just focusing that color in the upper crease just kind of grounds the eye look a little more, makes it that much nicer. Then on a flatter brush, this is from Sephora. It's actually a concealer brush. It's part of their new Match Master collection. And I'm going to take a tiny bit right here. I picked up this brush off of a Natasha Denona recommendation, not this one specifically, but this shape of a brush, just because taking a tiny amount of eyeshadow on this shape of a brush and pressing it into the outer portion of the eye, like you see how easy that was? It just kind of blends beautifully. And it's the perfect shape to like just fit in the eye and buff everything perfectly. So I'm taking, again, a tiny bit of shadow and just really focusing it on that outer corner of the eye. I don't know what it is. I feel like I got lazy. I'm blending with that T50 again. I used to do like 10 eyeshadows blended really nicely for an eye look. I would take a whole lot of time to get it done, and then I started switching to like transition, dark, glimmer shade. Glimmer, shimmer, lid, all at once became glimmer shade. Anyway, and I was bored with all of the eyes I was doing. So I'm actually taking the time to really build this up, make it a little bit smoky, make it very nice and well blended, and just take it there. This is literally like, this palette is making the easiest smoky eye ever. Because the cheek is so pinky, I think I'm going to take La Costa on the lid as well. I was thinking that I was going to use El Malecon because this gold is like the most beautiful shade I think I've ever used. It is just such a beautiful shade, but every time I have used this palette on camera, I use the gold. So for today, we are not. Taking that first brush, I'm just going to diffuse the edges in the crease. And then going back to that Makeup Shack brush with Cafecito the brown, I'm just going to gently re-intensify the outer portion of the eye and blend that into our lid shade for some depth and definition. Because the lid is so foiled, I am going to take that COLLAB highlighter, and I'm going to take that wet on the inner corner. Actually, I'm going to have to layer that. I know that this is going to be a shock, but La Costa from the palette is more vibrant than the highlighter is. Grabbing a T49 from Makeup Shack, I'm just going to take Cafecito, and I'm going to connect that dark brown from the bottom side of the outer corner up to where we blended that same shade on the top of the lid. And then dipping into Cocoa Taxi again, we're going to blend that towards the inner corner. All right, I'm going to go throw on some mascara and zoom you guys out, and I'll be right back. All right, so mascara is on. I did use the NARS Climax. I haven't used this in so long, and my lashes look nice. There's a little bit of transfer that already happened, so once that dries up, I'm just going to clean that up, and then we'll move on to lip. All right, so before we go in with lip, I'm going to take for setting spray. This is the Makeup Revolution Sport Fix Extra Hold Makeup Fixing Spray. I cannot tell you... Oh, I can tell you right away now that I smelled it why I stopped using it. It smells like chlorine. I'm still going to use it today, but definitely smells like a chlorinated pool. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with a lip. This is a lipstick I haven't worn on or off camera in a very long time. I'm sure you guys will remember, like, my thing was a neutral eye with such a vampy lip. This is the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte Liquid Lipstick in the shade Rose Blood. I remember this being, like, the most beautiful shade of vampy, plummy red, and I can't tell you why I stopped wearing it. So I'm going to go throw this on. And I remember I didn't wear it with a liner, so I'm not going to line, and if that becomes a hot mess, that's your fault. And now that the lip is on, I remember why I stopped wearing it, and the honest answer is, on camera, it looked so dark. In person, it's a little bit more of like a vampy berry, and it looks like black cherry on camera. Still love the color, but because it doesn't translate the same on camera, that's the only reason I stopped using it. I remember the formula. It's beautiful. If you're looking for something like a dark, vampy, witchy shade, you're going to love this. Just if you're doing it for photography or camera, it is going to translate a little bit darker. All right, so all in all, I don't think there was a single product here besides the setting spray that I don't think I'm going to use again. Like, I think I'm going to put this in my de-stash pile because I can't get over the scent. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!